Tonight on GamePoints 388, we have to talk about Sweet Baby and the Streisand effect, and WB seems to have gone insane focusing on live services over AAA single-player releases. All that and more in just a moment, but first I want everyone here to know this is an Audience Interactive podcast. So if you're watching live here at Twitch TV /GamePoints, or later at any myriad of video hosting platforms, please let me know what you guys think. Share your questions, comments, concerns, etc. I want to know other opinions out there, so I'm not just living in some kind of bubble. All right, let's go ahead and talk with this first big controversy or non-controversy or super controversy, depending on your point of view, I guess, with Sweet Baby. Now, what the hell is Sweet Baby, you might ask? Well, Sweet Baby is a consulting firm. Companies, when they're making a game, hire out various firms to help with sometimes QA or narrative issues or to make sure the writing's up to snuff. Sweet Baby's primary concern is to make sure that your game is appropriately inclusive. Many big companies have hired them. WB, I think WB, Sony definitely has. WB with Suicide Squad for certain. And they've kind of become a little bit of a boogeyman over the past few months, as everything they worked on seems to have what would be considered heavily, and I'm loath to use the term, woke elements in them. A lot of people see the progress flag in Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, for example, and assume that what Sweet Baby's doing. Or they see character models being made uglier compared to their basic models, the Fable trailer being a prime example of that, and assume that was Sweet Baby's doing. Now, a lot of it is just speculation. A lot of people see the tag, see the game, and just go, oh, clearly they must have put this in. The reality is, of course, a little bit more complicated than that. At the end of the day, Sweet Baby is just a consultation firm. Yes, they have some power, and yes, it does feel like they're propping up all over the place in certain games, but at the end of the day, it is the publishers and developers who have the final say on what goes in their game. A lot of people claim that Sweet Baby makes games worse. And to their defense, and to Sweet Baby's defense, rather, it doesn't. A bad game is bad, regardless if it has a overly, once again, woke theme to it, or has pride flags everywhere, or transgender protagonists, or anything like that. A bad game is just bad. Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League was going to be bad regardless if Sweet Baby consulted on it or not. That said, Sweet Baby itself as a firm is a very shadowy group whose employees are very much hidden, understandably so, because they are targets among the internet. Right or wrong, I'm not taking necessarily a side on that, but they do have an agenda. And that agenda is, as with so many things out there right now, based in cultural Marxism. I'm not necessarily going to go down that rabbit hole or anything like that, but know that people are hating on Sweet Baby. And it's not all for nonsense reasons. There are some legitimate reasons to be concerned about this stuff. And a lot of people working with Sweet Baby have ties going all the way back to the people who kicked off Gamergate and that whole insane thing. I'm not necessarily going to be getting into details about ancient history, well, ancient compared to the internet, but if you want an excellent breakdown as to their roles involved and what's going on here, I'd recommend taking a look at Side Scrollers podcasts that just went up, I want to say on the 4th of March, where a couple people from the old days of Gamergate kind of break down all the connections. They have all the receipts. Go take a look at that if you want a deeper insight into exactly what Gamergate and Sweet Baby have to do with each other and what Sweet Baby is and isn't doing. What I'm mainly concerned here about is this group right here, Sweet Baby Inc. Detective, and something that's known on the internet as the Streisand effect. Now, what is Sweet Baby Inc. Detected? Well, someone decided to make a Steam curation page full of games that are using Sweet Baby Inc. as a narrative consultant and are encouraging people not to buy these games. When this first was getting around, it only had about 5,000 followers on it. Small, minor. No one even really knew it existed. Sorry, the joys of doing a live stream are slightly. But someone, an employee from Sweet Baby Inc., decided that that alone was a bridge too far and decided to put them on blast on X, saying, hey, report this curation group, get it taken down, try to bully Steam into removing the group and into attacking the gentleman who made its Steam account as well and getting that banned. He seemed to relish in the idea of this man losing access to all of his games. And by the way, this is in tone with what Sweet Baby does. There's this video going around of Sweet Baby's founder saying that her whole idea of getting companies to hire them to do narrative consultant is kind of a not so subtle social blackmail. Of course, when you try to get someone shut down and say no one should look at something, the Streisand effect kicks in and everyone wants to go look at it suddenly. You can see already the followers as of 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on March 5th are now 170,000 people compared to the 5,000 it was before this idiot decided to open his mouth and try to get this page shut down. Now, what the Streisand effect is the phenomena that occurs when someone tries to get something censored, tells people that it's evil or taboo or forbidden, you shouldn't look at it, thus triggering humanity's innate curiosity to go finding out what that thing is. The term was coined when a photographer took a picture of Barbra Streisand's beach house for a little portfolio, and she flipped her shit, saying, you can't post a picture of my house. I immediately demand you take it off. Here's a cease and desist. Before all the lawsuits started flying, that photo had about 4 to 10 people who've seen it. After she targeted this poor photographer, suddenly millions of people saw it, thus having the exact opposite effect of what she was intending. She wanted people not to see it, and in turn, had far more people seeing it than what was originally planned, or what she originally desired, I should say. And that's what happened here. Now, this is a little bit more than 4 people. There's been a dedicated group of people who have been kind of watching Sweet Baby. It's been mentioned over the past few months. It's been kind of simmering exactly what this company is, who's running it, its shadowy nature by not advertising who's working for it or being unable to really contact them. Certainly didn't help the more conspiracy-minded gamers out there as they try to uncover exactly what the connections to this company are to the rest of the gaming industry. But, excuse me, it was a controversy that probably would have died out if it wasn't for that one idiot employee deciding to try to get who's running this curation page canceled, essentially. And now, suddenly, far more people are invested in the destruction of Sweet Baby Incorporated than there were last week this time. I don't. Something like this was bound to happen. Because it is in the nature of the cultural Marxist to scream at anyone who thinks differently than they do and try to get them to shut up. However, the peak of that kind of power was a few years ago. It doesn't work anymore. Calling people racist or sexist or evil or blank phobe, insert your nom de jour here, no longer has nearly the effect it once did back in 2021. In fact, it tends to have the opposite effect, it seems now. where most people just roll their eyes and go, whatever, what are you trying to prevent from happening? The veil has been lifted and people can see through. Now, that's not to say there aren't some racist or sexist or homophobic assholes out there. There are plenty of them out there. But the term has been rendered meaningless through overuse. I will once again state Sweet Baby Incorporated working with a game does not make that game bad. The game itself was already bad. They just added in some insufferable bullshit on top of it. So, for example, Gotham Knights, terrible game. Assassin's Creed Valhalla, it's not bad. I get if you didn't like it, but to say it's objectively horrible because Sweet Baby added a few woke images to it or iconography into it, it didn't make the game any worse. It just made it more subversive, I guess. Same with oh, see, this is a very short page too, by the way. It's only 16 games on there. They've worked on way more than 16 people. But I believe they've consulted on, Horizon, for example. Horizon Forbidden West is not a bad game. But there are certainly things in there that make you go, why would they do this? It's because they are pushing a cultural. These two things can operate independently of each other. I get why it might suck the enjoyment out for some people. But it doesn't inherently change the gameplay, typically. Now, for me, gameplay is king. I get why, for some people, it can make it ruined. But overall, in the entire sphere, one consulting company is not going to ruin the game. The game would have already have been ruined before they got to it if you did. But the pushback against this company particularly has started to hit fever pitch. But does it actually matter? My opinion right now is no. And the reason why is because, unlike back when Gamergate first hit, when you suddenly had the bevy of articles seemingly timed to all come out once saying gamers are dead, you're not really getting that with this. You're only hearing one side pushing back against it. The other side, the website side, the legacy media side, the corporate games media side, tends to be relatively silent on it. So it doesn't have that pushback needed to fuel the fire. They have learned that lesson from 10 years ago that you don't talk about something you want to go away because they don't want to Barbara Streisand affect it even further. Point Baby themselves have been locking down all their social media, deleting posts left and right. So they're kind of taking the if we don't talk about it, this will go away. And I do think that is going to be the. I don't think anything is going to change in the end. I don't think Sweet Baby is going to go bye bye. You might have one or two companies kind of go, maybe we don't want to get involved in this. But ESG is very much a thing. Now, ESG is a whole nother topic that I'm not going to necessarily dive too deep into. But it is essentially a rating that a lot of companies are catering to because if they have certain, and it stands for environmental, social, and government score, or something like that, I believe. I can't quite remember off the top of my head because it's been a while since I've looked into it. Essentially, if they want to get approval for certain loans or certain grants or tax breaks, they need to hit a certain level of, once again, I'm going to use that term that I don't think necessarily applies here, but you all know what I mean when I say it, wokeness. We really do need to find another term because that's also something that's getting, much like how racist and sexist is overused by the progressive side, woke is overused by the right. It really is. There needs to be some other phrase in here. And hiring a company like Sweet Baby gets you those points that are needed to hit those levels you need to do business at a higher level with some higher end banking firm. So these people are still going to get hired. 170,000 people on the Sweet Baby Inc. curation page is not going to do anything to change anyone's plans in the Sweet Baby Inc. is not going to be finished. They were smart that they locked everything down. They are playing this as they should be for a company looking to survive. just shutting the fuck up. Because these are the people who realized long before the right did that if someone apologizes, you continue pouncing on them. So of course they're not going to apologize. They'll double down, in fact. Maybe just not publicly. They'll do it to their friends and inner circles and still get hired to do more and more things. I do think, in my opinion, that we won't hear any more about this company for a while. They'll still be showing up in games. They'll still be narratively consulting. But if they're smart, there'll be no more controversies inadvertently caused by these people. But, as I said earlier, it is in the nature of the cultural Marxist to lash out at anyone who thinks outside the orthodoxy. So we'll see if an employee decides to smart off and go from there. I guess what I'm saying is, I am glad that there are more people who have eyes on this company, because I do think it's important to push back against some of this shit. Because it's not meant to be inclusive. It's meant to be subversive. It's meant to worm a poisonous ideology. And what I mean by that isn't diversity as most sane people would know it. What I mean is the diversity with all those weird shades of communism and socialism factored in there and designed to kind of tear down rather than lift up. So it's good that more people are aware that this exists and that is happening. Knowledge is never a bad. But have they done anything so egregious that companies are going to be deleting them from their books? No. They're going to be around. It is important to counter the narratives they're pushing. But don't waste too much energy on it. Because it's going to be few. Now, what I think will happen in time is that more and more companies are going to start looking at this overall ESG shit, which once again is another topic, but if you're coming here for the Sweet Baby stuff, you probably already know what that is. And stop hiring companies like this. They'll say that's like a waste of money and time. Because what they do is they hire places like Sweet Baby, not because they believe in the cause, but because they want a shield. They want to go, oh no, we're not that. Look at the people we hired to help us make our games more inclusive. That's why these people. And as we culturally move away from that insanity, companies like this will start drying up. The grift will end, to use yet another term that I'm not a fan of, but fits the conversation. So, keep it calm. Call this shit out, but don't go insane. You don't want the Streisand effect going back the other way. I don't necessarily agree with proportionality. The whole like, oh, we should be limited in our response idea towards like it doesn't seem like you're overreacting, but don't be an idiot when you do it either. Don't go sending death threats to people who work at this company. Don't go making outrageous claims against this company. Just highlight what they do, show their own words back to them. For example, the person who founded this company has a very nasty racist streak inside of her, aimed at white people specifically. Just highlight that and let their own words speak for them. And you will find that more often than not, the problem will resolve itself. And that's kind of all I have to say about this. Is that if you try to shut someone's speech down for spurious reasons, it's going to come back on you many times over. We have seen this happen over and over and over again. And once again, to liken it to Gamergate, if there wasn't such the egregious overreaction from corporate games media at the time, that never would have launched. It's when you put your blinders on and start screaming that this shouldn't be, this is harmful, or this is bad. That's when people start going, oh, what, you mean I can't look at it? You're telling me that I shouldn't look at something? Curiosity is going to kick in. So just be strategic about what you're. Don't be an idiot like that one guy who was working at Sweet Baby was. Let me know what you guys think down below. I wanted to address this. I typically don't wade into the big cultural stuff. I think it's very apparent what side I pick it's on. But at the end of the day, I think a lot of it is what's the word I want to use here? I don't want to say pointless. It's definitely tiring. Fruitless, perhaps. A lot of it is, oh god damn it, what's the term I'm looking for? I can't think of it right now. I'm sure it'll come to me later. But there's a lot of wasted energy in fighting these battles, especially when the damage has already been done. They have already been highlighted as to what they are. We can now move on to something else. Keep your powder dry, as it were. Anyways, let me know what you think down below if you're watching this. What should be done, what you think about this company. If you're kind of like me and tend to not like the people working for it, but you're not really, oh my god, thinking, oh my god, Sweet Baby is going to ruin all gaming, because they're not. That's my stance on it. Yeah, these people suck. They're kind of cancerous. They're definitely toxic. But they're not going to ruin the game. The game industry is doing more than fine on its own, ruining itself, and we'll get into that in a second. But let me just know your general thoughts and feelings down below. Keep it civil, keep it chill, and love to hear from you. All right, moving on to the next topic as we talk about the games industry just self-destructing on itself. This here is from GameSpot. By the way, the link to this and all the stories we talk about will be posted down below in the description or over on a Discord server. You can go take a look at that. Warner Brothers discusses volatile AAA console games will lean into free-to-play and mobile. During a recent Morgan Stanley speaking event, Warner Brothers Discovery gaming boss JB Peretta discussed some of the company's strategy for games going forward, and it includes more live service, mobile, and free-to-play games. He said, "While doubling down on games is an area we think there's a lot more growth opportunity we can tap into with the IP that we have and some of the capabilities we have on the studio, where we're uniquely positioned as both a publisher and developer of the game." Essentially, this man is an idiot. You just have to look at two games to understand why. Once again, live show, we're off. He is going to be doubling down on live service games. No one wants that. The live service market is oversaturated already. You have to look at no other than WB's own Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, whose current player base is less than that of Gotham Knights right now. People are done with live services, but yet it's Dragon he is doubling down on. Whereas last year, the best-selling game topping Rockstar Games and Call of Duty was goddamn Hogwarts Legacy, another WB-owned property that is a big AAA single-player experience. So he has evidence of their two biggest games they've launched over the past year, Suicide Squad and Hogwarts Legacy, and he is going to double down on Suicide Squad. This man is a moron. Moving on to the article. Brett said WBD's recent gaming output has focused on AAA games for a console, and that's great when a game like Hogwarts Legacy sells 22 million copies and becomes the best-selling game of the year. But this kind of success is never guaranteed in what Perrin says a volatile market. He pointed out that one of WBD's latest biggest games, Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, was a disappointment for the company. So here he kind of associates Suicide Squad as a mainly single-player game with free-to-play slash live service elements, it sounds like. This sounds like a man who doesn't know his own product. And he probably doesn't. I would be shocked if this man owns a console, let alone plays games. He is right that not every single player game sells 22 million copies. That is highly unusual. If you sell 5 million, you're a success, typically. I get where he's coming from for that point. But I promise you, this man is looking at Suicide Squad and considering it a single player game. I apologize once. Ah, man. Whew. Live shows, everyone. He is out of touch with his own company. I promise you that's what he's thinking. He's going, yeah, Suicide Squad, single player game, with some free to play elements on there to try to make it more money. That clearly bombed. Because all he does is read the 2 or 3 sentence blurb on there and sees that it can be played single player and goes, that's clearly single player. What happens when you have bean counters in positions of power over developers? I get it. Games need to make money. They need to be profitable. My fucking name on X is capitalist pig. What do you expect? I'm going to agree with that. But you need to know what the hell you're selling. And this man clearly does. Back to the article. So the plan going forward, he said, is to help reduce volatility by focusing on core franchises, bringing at least some of them to the mobile and free-to-play space, as well as continue to invest in the live service games that people play and spend money on over a long period of time. This will help WB generate more consistent revenue, he said, going to tease that WDD has some new mobile and free-to-play games coming this year. Also worth noting that just because WDD may push into new places, that doesn't necessarily mean it'll stop making big single-player AAA games. Hogwarts Legacy 2 coming soon. But they're probably also going to make like a Quidditch game that is free-to-play, I'd imagine. Maybe lean into more of the DC comic stuff, maybe. But it will all be mobile shit, I'd imagine, from DC. I have a hard time picturing any big DC AAA game coming from Warner Brothers in a long time, given that Suicide Squad is seemingly doing horribly and how long it took to develop. Going on. Rather than just launching a one-and-done console game, how do we develop a game around, for example, Hogwarts Legacy or Harry Potter, but as a live service where people can live and work and build and play in a world on an ongoing basis, he said. You can't. People's time is stressed out. We're done. We don't have any more hours to play. I've said that's the big caveat to these free-to-play games and service games, is that it's not money. Someone can always find an extra $5 under their couch, no matter how strapped they are, I promise you. It's time. We can't add a 25th hour into the fucking day. People are at capacity with time. And they are not going to leave their games they have spent thousands of hours in already to go fucking move furniture around in Harry Potter's magical home. Some might, but not the numbers you think it is going to be. Games as a service is a pipe dream for many of these companies. It used to be 1 out of 3, then it was 1 out of 5, then it was 1 out of 10. Now it's 1 out of 20 that are successful. They are traps. Purda went on to say that WED is uniquely positioned because it has popular brands. He singled out Mortal Kombat, Game of Thrones, Harry Potter, and DC as its biggest, as well as 11 different internal game development studios. He's also teased that the WBD has a strategic investment plan to help make future games more successful, adding the company just recently brought someone on to help with brand management and sustainability. Who that person is, we have no idea. If WBD can execute, Purda said he expects gaming to bring meaningful growth to the company in the years to come. But making games takes time, so Purda cautioned the company is having to lay the foundations now for returns that could come in 2025, 26, and 27. That's right. Live service games are dead now. And he's investing in making more live service games that come out 3 years from now. It's like the Avatar game from Ubisoft. That's a game that probably would have found more success 6 years ago. Hell, 10 years ago when the game first dropped, or the movie first dropped. Not today. Now, what the hell do I know, right? I'm not some C-suite executive that's had a decade plus experience running a company. But this is a man who I promise you hasn't even played something as simple as Tetris. He does not know what he is selling. That is the kiss of death. At least Phil Spencer, a man who talks out of both sides of his mouth constantly, and who I think gamers are starting to wake up to and realize, this guy's full of shit. At least he seems to know what he's selling. But we all knew that Jim Ryan didn't. And we can pick up on that. We see it. We know that you're full of shit. However, he's not talking to us. He's talking to investors. And investors want to hear things like games as a service, reoccurring spending. Because they're fucking stupid too. They all want Fortnite. They all want, they see Grand Theft Auto with its multi-billion-dollar a year tag and go, that, make that. Why can't you make that? While failing to recognize that there is a cultural identity associated with those two games that you can't just pull out of nothing. You can't. It is about timing, hitting when they aren't hot, lightning in the bottle, insert your cliche here. It's why Dying Light 1 was so fucking successful when it dropped. But the second one wasn't so much. It's why Helldivers 2 is doing amazing at the moment. It's because it is a game that came out at the right time. And when you're planning for games to drop 5 or 3, 4, 5 years from now, you can't time that. You just kind of have to roll the dice and see where it comes up. And when it comes to live service shit, they tend to launch in such a bare bones manner. And it's so obvious that they're trying to bleed more money from you. That's just an instant turnoff. So you're already working against your own interest when that comes out. I have no idea what this man thinks he's going to be doing. Now, I could be wrong. He could have pages and pages of data that suggest, hey, this is the way to go. I don't see it. And if he can't see it, he either knows something that I don't, which is entirely possible, to be fair, or he is dooming Warner Brothers Discovery Games division to a quick death. And that sucks because we're already in a year of massive layoffs. 2024 is going to be about just surviving this year. And WBD has some good studios. Despite Suicide Squad's misstep, Rocksteady has a good pedigree. Admittedly, the people who founded that studio have pieced out. NetherRealm still alive and kicking on there. The Hogwarts Legacy people, studio, I can't remember off the top of my head, they made an excellent, a fine game. It wasn't excellent, but it was good. They're the ones that are going to be paying the price for this guy's fucking bad call. But we'll see. I hope I'm wrong. I don't think I am. A couple more stories to round things out here real quick. I need to, running behind. Excuse me. Up here from Bloomberg, Embracer Group to sell Saber, developer of a new Star Wars remake, in $500 million deal. Swedish gaming company Embracer Group AB will sell one of its largest subsidiaries, Saber Interactive, to a group of private investors in a deal worth up to $500 million, according to a person familiar with the transaction. Saber will become a privately owned company with around 3,500 employees, said the person, who has not to be identified when discussing non-public information. The company also plans to continue developing a remake of Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, a highly anticipated game that was removed from its previous developer, Aspiring Media, in 2020. The deal will be one of Embracer's largest moves yet in an ongoing cost-cutting initiative that has seen the company lay off employees and shutter studios around the world over the past year. Saber and Embracer declined to comment. This is going to be a loss for Saber, not Saber, Embracer, by the way, a company that has been hemorrhaging money for the past 2 years and now has been cutting studios, completely shuttering some, deep cuts in others. Embracer purchased Saber for $525 million in 2020 as part of a spending spree, and several other acquisitions at that time, such as Demerge Studios based in Boston, and New World Interactive based in Denver. They were folded into Saber. So Saber itself wasn't just $525 million cost on its own, but all these other small development teams were also picked up for various costs and folded into Saber itself. If they're selling Saber for $500 and Saber alone cost $525, that's a difference of $25 million Embracer is eating, along with all the other costs from all these other developments that they folded into Saber itself. This is a massive write-off or a loss for Embracer. They are taking a huge hit on it, which should show you how desperate they are for cash at the moment. And I don't think they're done. I know there's rumors that Gearbox might be sold, but no one might want to buy Gearbox. Borderlands 3 was kind of eh. Randy Pitchford has a odd reputation in the gaming industry. And not everyone that tries to go public or a private can go private. Volition is rumored to have tried to go independent on their own, and it just didn't work out. So we'll see if this helps Embracer. But I don't think it's going to, but they really don't have much else they can do either. Let's go ahead and move on to the last few stories that we have here. Coming up tomorrow, Xbox Partner Preview. It's going to be another direct style showcase starting Wednesday, March 6th at 10 a.m. Pacific. It is going to be focused on publishers like Capcom, Nexion, and EA, and others for more than a dozen new trailers over the course of a 30-minute broadcast. They're already kind of teasing some of the things that are going to be out there, including Tales of Kenzera Zao, the Kunisugami Path of the Goddess, and First Berserker Kazan. I'd imagine that you'll probably see some other things from Capcom. Maybe I wouldn't expect Resident Evil. I definitely wouldn't expect Monster Hunter here. But some smaller stuff. Nexion, I'm sure, would show off their Dune survival game. EA, I have no idea. I would love for them to announce Dead Space 2, but this isn't the show for that. And EA also, considering they also had layoffs and are reevaluating the strategy as well, I don't think Dead Space cards, unfortunately. A bit of good news. Toys for Bob is also going indie. This was a company that was part of Activision. Then Activision got bought up by Microsoft. They had deep cuts. Toys for Bob did have to downsize a little bit, but what they have seems to be branching off on their own. So congratulations, Toys for Bob. We're thrilled to announce that Toys for Bob is spinning off as an independent game development studio. Over the years, we've inspired love, joy, and laughter of the inner child and all gamers. We've pioneered new IP and hardware technologies in Skylanders. We've raised the bar for the best-in-class remasters in Spyro Ignited Trilogy. We've taken Crash Bandicoot to innovative, critically acclaimed new heights. With the same enthusiasm and passion, we believe the house of time to take the studio and our future games to the next level. This opportunity allows us to return to our roots by being a small and nimble studio. Awesome. They also announced that they're going to be exploring a partnership with Microsoft, so there's a good chance that Microsoft might remain their publisher still, but they will be able to work on what they want. Congrats to Toys for Bob. You did what so few companies have been able to do. The other ones I can think of off the top of my hand are IO Interactive and the aforementioned Saber Interactive, potentially, if that deal actually goes through, and becoming independent again. Awesome. I hope it works out for you. However, we do have some unfortunate stories because there isn't a single week that goes by without some layoffs. EA is going to be slashing 5% of its employees, which is going to be roughly 670 people if you do the math. Spearhead Games is essentially done. They're pausing all the work on Unforetold Witchstone as of the 8th, March 8th, and they're going to be firing most of their employees. Ouch. Radical Forge has been hit with some layoffs as well. This is going to be a smaller series of people, about 6 total, but still, layoffs are layoffs. and 505 Games is going to be closing offices in Germany, Spain, and France, affecting only a handful of people, about 10 or so, but still, once again, layoffs are layoffs. Hearts goes out to everyone who has been affected by these things. I wish, I know I reframed this over and over again, but I wish it was going to get better, but it's not. We are starting to see studios go bye-bye. Spearhead Games being one of them, essentially. They're still technically in existence, but when you lay off a majority of your team, what are you really doing? 2024 is going to be a bloodbath. That kind of does it for the news that I have lined up, which also does it for the show as well. This has been GamePoints 388, and thank you all for showing up. I do stream this live every Tuesday, 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, right here at Twitch TV/GamePoints. I am slowly starting to get better, by the way, so I'm not coughing nearly as much. Thank you for bearing with me at this time. Like what you saw here, you know what streamers want. Likes, follows, bits, shares, subs, all that good stuff. You can follow me on X at CapitalistPig21. And you can come by here at Twitch TV/GamePoints to catch me streaming various things throughout the week. Really looking forward to that Hearts of Iron expansion coming out on Thursday. Once again, thank you all for watching. I do appreciate it. And until next time, I'm out of here.